Anthony, how did you find carnivore?
Well, Dave, I found carnivore through a hurdle of events in life. So, long story short, I'm dealing with stage four gist cancer. We'll get into that. And through the journey of cancer, I failed treatments that the doctors put me on. And once I realized the doctors didn't know how to control what I deal with, I made a plan to learn how food deals with the body in cancer. I did different diets 3 months at a time between scan intervals, plant based, standard American, Mediterranean, keto, eventually carnivore. And honestly, carnivore was my very last resort because red meat causes cancer. That's the whole thing. I already am dealing with cancer. I don't want to make it worse by eating red meat. So I heard about carnivore, like, not for me. During my keto phase, a friend of mine sent me a video of Jeff the Prosperous, Blessings on My Journey, and he was dealing with stage four colon cancer, doing Western medicine treatment and doing the holistic approach plus carnivore. I'm like, curveball. There's a stage four colon cancer patient who's thriving and looks amazing on treatment and carnivore, and he's doing well, like beyond well. And that really threw me down a loop. I'm like, well, if this guy could do chemo and carnivore and be as active as he is, plus raise a family still, why can't I just try carnivore? And my very first 3 months into carnivore was my very first time where it showed zero progression with tumor growth. Yeah, that was a blessing in disguise because up until that point, I had done 130 days of one type of treatment. I did a week to week and a half of a second type of treatment. The first type I failed. Cancer got worse. It spread. Nothing was controlled during the first round of treatments. And the second type of treatment I tried, the side effects were aggressively way worse off the get go than the first round of treatments. I think this isn't quality of life for me. I'd rather die naturally and learn how to fight versus die through Western medicine. So to find carnivore was a curveball, but it was the best curveball in the world, the best curveball.
Right. So just for people watching, could you explain a little bit what gist means? What gist cancer is?
Yeah. So the type of cancer I deal with, and I use very powerful words. I don't claim the cancer. It's the cancer, not my cancer. I really find words are powerful. On my 31st birthday, I was diagnosed with stage four gist cancer. GIST stands for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. It is a rare sarcoma. Only roughly 5,000 cases a year are diagnosed with GIST, and out of those 5,000 cases, even less deal with the mutations I deal with. So when I got the diagnosis with the stage four incurable GIST, I, I didn't even know I had cancer at that time. Um, with previous episodes with Dave Mack, he had showed imaging of me getting cut open through surgery where they removed a softball-sized tumor out of my stomach and intestines, and that surgery was a month and a half prior to the diagnosis. I was told they were benign tumors. I went in for multiple biopsies, multiple tests, and they came back benign. That's why we progressed forward with the surgery. And the tumors came back as cancerous and classified as stage four because it transferred from or metastasized from the stomach and intestines to the liver. From the time I did those treatments, the first one was sunitinib malate, 130 days of that, a pill a day, targeted therapy, a TKI. I think it's a tyrosine casein inhibitor. It's a targeted chemo drug for the type of cancer I deal with. I use quotation marks because they said it was targeted. The side effects weren't that bad, and it aged me drastically overnight. I went from looking like 30 years old to 60, 70 years old, and I felt like that overnight as well. I actually spent 9 to 10 months urinating blood daily. I spent almost a year, well, actually about a year, having seizures and afibrillations and many heart attacks, little strokes. I actually spent a couple different days in the ICU with a regular heartbeat. And the seizures weren't new to me. I dealt with seizures from, we'll say, early teen years up until carnivore, which, side note, real quick, through progression, learning the history, learning about the body, and going carnivore, I am now 22, almost 23 months seizure free. No heart problems, no seizures for 22 months. August 1st will be 23 months. And I have found out through my own research by Google, all this other stuff, is people that deal with epileptic seizures do a lot better controlling and living with the seizures when they go keto or carnivore. And I went to multiple doctors' facilities to ask questions. Why am I having seizures? Why am I, having these reactions? Nobody could give me an answer, and not one medical establishment told me to go carnivore or keto. But yet this information was on the tip of my fingertips on my cell phone.
Right. It's kind of like no one's mentioning keto or carnivore, but they've all got a drug to sell you, probably, right?
To go on to that real quick, which I laugh and smile because what I've realized through this journey living with an incurable type of illness is the vast majority of pharmaceuticals literally just mimic what Mother Nature wants us to do. And what Mother Nature wants us to do doesn't come with all the crazy side effects. Look at these GLP-1 weight loss products, for example. Yeah, you lose a bunch of weight, but it totally screws up your hormones and everything else along with that. And once you get off those products, you don't have the foundations to keep that weight off. You go back to your bad habits and gain all that weight back again. So it's like, oh yeah, let me just take a tire, poke a hole in it, and sit there with the air inflator, a compressor, and continue blowing up that tire with a hole in the sidewall. And as soon as I'm done filling up the air, it goes flat again. It's like, where's the common sense? And I've realized through my younger years is what you do today that's hard is going to benefit tomorrow. You have to search for the hard stuff today to have an easier tomorrow. So many of us, including myself for the longest time, searched for the easy route. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's too hard. Or, oh, that's too complicated. Life is hard. Life is complicated. You have to go through these hardships to get calloused up and stronger so you can handle what life throws at you. Life isn't going to pussyfoot around when things get hard. You got to toughen up and get harder. And it's not easy. Through my own journey, I was that horse that was led to water, and for many years couldn't drink, didn't want to drink. And if I would have learned many years ago what I learned now, I probably wouldn't be in this predicament, which is a blessing. I'm in this predicament because I got to talk to you guys now and learn all this stuff and spread my knowledge.
We have this kind of thing, like we want to have this easy life, just building on what you're saying there. But ultimately you have to kind of struggle through things. You have to do the hard things the hard learnings or whatever it is to kind of as you say, progress or develop or.
Yeah. To go on to that, another tangent is with life, with everything, when we're a baby, learning how to crawl, learning how to walk, teen years, getting a license. We never knew how to do any of this. We learned it. We tried to crawl. We tried to stand up. We tried to walk. We fell. We got hurt, I'm sure most of us didn't get our driver's license the very first test. You have to fail to learn. You don't learn from winning. You get an ego by winning. You build bad habits from consistently winning, in my opinion. When you lose, when you fail, that's where the growth is. You could step back out of the situation and understand, okay, that's where I went wrong. This is what I could change next time, and then improvise. My local gym I go to as a saying, and I'm going to snake it from them real quick, is they always say, do today what others won't, so tomorrow you could do what others can't. And that saying hits so hard. And again, I don't want anybody to have cancer. I don't want anybody to pass away from cancer. I mean, we should all die from natural causes, in my opinion. But I look around people at the cancer center or these different cancer groups that just sit there with their hands out, doctor, give me the pills, give me all the answers. And they literally do what the doctors tell them to do, and that is it. And they continue to deteriorate and go downhill. And if they would just play their own advocate, use their head for more than just a hat rack, and apply themselves to walk a few extra steps that day, or understand what goes into your mouth matters, which we'll go into this topic in a minute. Just because it fits in the mouth doesn't mean it's food. I think that was one of your favorite sayings I said with the previous interview.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been 23 months for you now, or almost 23 months.
It'll be 23 months August 1st of
Right,
carnivore.
right. And so how has that impacted your journey so far?
So with carnivore and the journey, and I'm going to be completely honest. I'm honest with every episode I do, but the biggest thing I noticed off the get go with carnivore is my inflammation and pain levels deteriorated to nothing. Like, I've had 24 broken bones throughout my life. I've had 12 surgeries. I couldn't tell you how many concussions, a bunch of seizures, and even in high school times, I used to go by the saying, it's not about how many miles on the body, it's about how hard a miles on the body. Because even at 15, 16 years old, I was addicted to pain pills, Vicodin, sniffing it, whatever I had to do to get a high and relax, because I was in so much pain already at a young age. And now I'm 33 and no pain, dealing with a incurable type of illness. I could run, I could jump, I'm lifting weights at the gym. I actually, a few months ago for the Rogue Challenge, I entered the 1,000-pound club and ended up moving 1,040 pounds between 3 compounded lifts in under an hour. And I give that all props to carnivore. Without pain, the body could heal. And from a digestive standpoint with carnivore, for the first time in my life, for the last 23 months, we'll just say 23 months because we're only a couple of days away from August, but for the last 23 months is digestive stress gone. I mean, during the adaptation phase, yes, diarrhea, it's a given. You're going to have that. But once you get through the adaptation phase, I've had no diarrhea, hardly any gas. I mean, I think the most gaseous I ever was and stinkiest was when I was plant based. But so from digestive, amazing. And my first 8 months into the gym, I was carb based, and then I switched to fat adapted. Once I got to September, and initially being carb based, yes, I put on more size quicker, but it was fluffy muscle. It wasn't real dense muscle. And so from a size comparison and weight comparison, I weigh a little bit less now than when I was carb based at my biggest. I think I was 195 when I was carb based at my biggest. I fluctuate between 185 and 190 on a regular basis now, but I'm almost twice as strong as I am now than I was when I was carb based. Like, I could hammer curl 45-pound weights with perfect form for multiple sets, and when I was carb based, I was doing them with 25s. I had bigger arms, but they weren't stronger. And then from a mental standpoint with carnivore, and this goes back to being honest with myself and everybody else, is I've been on marijuana since I was teenager, smoked pot, the whole 9 yards. And for the last X amount of years, I've had my medical card, for the cancer stuff. But even for smoking weed for 15 years and, having the brain fog, the typical pothead mentality up in the brain, my brain works way better now. And carnivore has cleared out all the brain fog. I have my moments where my brain doesn't work properly. Like I have stutters occasionally. A lot of the stutters are from the seizures I've had, but I'm a lot more quick witted. I don't have to actually sit there and think about, oh, what was I thinking about? It's like everything fires optimally. It's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, and how has this had an impact on the cancer?
So before I answer the quick impact on the cancer, is my last segment I want to talk about real quick with digestive and carnivore is
Mm.
come August 1st, I'll be actually 8 months into raw steak as well. I have a pound of raw meat every day. Well, let me rephrase that. I have a pound of meat at least 6 days a week that's raw. It's normally a top sirloin or a cheaper cut of meat that I could just dice up, throw some butter in, and eat it. Oh, salt too, of course.
And how's that going? Are you enjoying it? Does it make you feel better?
So I feel way better on raw meat than I do cooked meat. I mean, occasionally the cooked meat tastes better, but from a performance standpoint, a digestive standpoint, I could put down a pound of steak raw and go to the gym 10 minutes later and not notice anything in my guts. Like, I don't feel lethargic. I don't feel full. I don't even feel like there's any food inside of me. Like, it feels like it just melts as it goes down your system. You just have to get used to the texture change. It's a little bit more chewy when it's raw.
And so you're literally sitting there with a raw steak.
Yeah, I don't have a grinder, so I just dice it up and eat little cubes of it. But my friends and my girlfriends have a grinder. So actually, a matter of fact, a few weeks ago up in Canada, we ground up a 6 pound cow heart and fresh out of the ground, took a couple spoonfuls just to taste it. It was delicious.
Wow. Um, so that's something you're going to keep going with. Do you think you'll go 100% raw?
So far as going 100% raw, I wouldn't mind trying like a 2 or 3 month experiment and just pure raw everything for 2 or 3 months. But before I do that, I want to make sure I understand all the science and research because there's a proper way to keep aging the meat. Usually, with what I do, for example, today's Sunday. If I was going to the raw steak I'd have today, I would have bought it on I would have thawed it out on Wednesday and salted it up, and it would have sat either on the counter or on the fridge or both for 2 or 3 days ahead of time, so it gets more tender and more easier to melt. Um, it's kind of weird to say it, but it tastes best when there's a slight layer of green on there.
Really?
It literally just melts. Yeah, slight layer of green. And I'm not like saying like shit growing, but meat when it's aged, it has a little bit of a green film. That is just amazing. The local butchers are like, you're crazy.
So, did you have any misgivings before you tried it? Did you kind of worry, like, am I gonna get food poisoning or is something bad gonna happen?
So initially, for many years, raw meat no go. I was like, no, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna die, not healthy, food poisoning, whatever. And as I've learned about carnivore and experimented with stuff, of course, I've gone from cooking things well done to more rare or medium rare, sometimes slightly blue. And as I was doing that, one of my local friends, he's like, "Can I send you an inappropriate link?" I'm like, "What do you mean by inappropriate?" He's like, "Well, it's about food, but you're gonna get grossed out." I'm like, "Sure, whatever, dude. I don't get grossed out." And my friend sent me a few videos, and I hope I could pronounce it right. Maybe somebody could correct me. This link he sent me was about a guy named Augustus Vonderplatz, he ate raw meat, and he lived and survived and cured his cancer. I know you're not supposed to use the word cure, but that's what he claims. And once I watched his videos, I spent like 6 or 8 hours one day just video after video learning his rabbit hole, and I'm like, it kind of makes sense. And so I did a January 1st to January 7th. I did a 7-day fast. I'm like, this is the time to eat raw meat. I'm not going to break it with bone broth. I'm going to break this shit with raw meat. And if I like it, great. If I don't, I'll go back to bone broth. But after 7 days with no food, anything sounds good, right? So like, I took my first bite, and initially the texture, gross. I hated the texture. But once I swallowed it after a couple of the chews, I'm like, it absorbed. I felt like instantly better. So as every bite, it just got better and better. So I would love to learn the process of aging meat properly, so it doesn't have that green film layer.
I
um,
I guess this I've always been squeamish about trying raw raw red meat, but I've just as you're talking about it there, I guess I mean it's just like sashimi, it's
yeah,
just like having raw fish. I mean, at first you go, well, this is a bit weird, but then after you do it, it's like, oh, well, there was nothing wrong with that.
I actually look forward to my raw steak every day before I go to the gym. I typically eat it before I go to the gym just for like a pre-workout meal, so my body has extra nutrients since it's so easily absorbable. Um, but what I've realized with myself, and the Augustus guy, talks about in all of his interviews he did, is the more you cook a steak, the harder it is to digest. And that doesn't even have to go along with steak. That's anything. The more you take anything from its natural standpoint and modify it, the less you're going to absorb out of it and the harder it is on your digestive system. So even with like a russet potato, for example, when I was carb based, one day I took a russet potato and baked it, and then I boiled one, and then I ate one raw, little bites, and you could see with the raw russet, my GKI didn't budge at all. Glucose ketone index didn't budge at all. But the moment I ate either the baked one or the mashed one, the GKI response, glucose went up. And same thing with the banana. I mean, in any state, a banana is going to raise my GKI because there's carbohydrates and sugar in a banana. But if you take a banana in its natural state and eat it, it'll do a certain response to your GKI. But if you take that same banana and you mash it, it'll change that response. You take that same banana and you blend it, it'll change that same response. It actually, and these are hypothetical numbers. I don't have the scientific numbers, but eating a banana plain Jane versus blending it almost quadruples the sugar content.
Really?
Yeah.
So, typically when you say to someone, a processed food, you're thinking of processing like by adding ingredients and all that kind of thing. But literally, you know, your body is responding to the processing of just mixing something up or just
Yeah.
mashing it.
At least for my own self. I don't know, for everybody else, but with my own self, when I've done these experiments, that's the response I've gotten every time. And even from a taste standpoint, if you take that banana, take a brand new banana, you cut it in half, you eat half of it normal, and take the other half and blend it and drink it, it's going to taste different as well. The blend is going to be way more sweeter. So just like that overnight, by blending it, oh, why is it more sweeter? Well, more sugar content came out because sugar is sweet.
Wow. That's interesting. Well, food for thought. I'm gonna have to try this raw steak at some point.
Well, let me know how
Um,
it goes. Salting it a day or two in advance definitely helps.
so yeah, what is the status of the GIST cancer?
So with the cancer, how do I phrase this? Long story short, The diagnosis was on my 31st birthday. That's when I got the diagnosis with the cancer. Going back through the history of imaging and charts, everything through my chart, somebody knew about the cancer tumor when I was 26 years old. So 5 years previously, somebody knew about it and didn't say anything. So during that 5 year period from 26 years old to 31, the tumor went from pea size to softball size in that 5 years and spread from the stomach to the liver. And that's why it's classified as stage 4. After surgery, they removed the tumor out of the stomach. They removed one tumor off the liver to make sure, the biopsies matched up. They did. I hopped on treatment right away. It was 130 days of sunitinib. And during the regimented treatment period, the tumors in the liver that were left grew, spread, multiplied, almost tripled in size during the treatment the doctors had me on. And quitting treatment, going to the different diets, up until carnivore, the tumors continued to grow. It was at a slower space. It was at a slower pace, of course, from quitting chemo till the time I went carnivore. And then from September 2023, when I went carnivore, to 3 months later, no growth at all. Everything stabilized, stopped growing. The first time ever, during this period of time, no growth. The doctors told me it was an error, and I'm like, nope. I'm gonna run this carnivore test for another 3 months, so it'll be a total of 6 months. We'll see what happens, and then because they kept at this whole time, you need to hop on treatment. You're gonna die without treatment. That's the whole time in the back of my ears. That's what the doctors have been breathing down my throat. And 6 months into carnivore, I actually showed some tumors progressively shrinking quite a bit. At that point in time, my regimen was really strict, really strong. I was, carnivore. I was aggressive fasting. I was intermittent fasting, red light therapy for mitochondrial health. I had just started cold showers at that time. But once I got the results where I was able to shrink some tumors, long story short, sadly, my grandpa passed away, and he was paying for some of this regimen I was doing. So since my grandpa passed, I haven't been able to afford this full regimen I was on. So I've been 100% stable since that particular scan. So for over a year now, nothing's grown and nothing's shrunk. Everything's been exactly the same size. But the cool part about it is I'm actually working with a cancer nutritionalist in another state, Jean Wallace, an amazing human being. She has, I won't go into details, but she has this theory or this methodology of the biomarkers of cancer, for inflammation. And for the last, I think it's been like 8 months or the last 10 months, somewhere in there, she's been working with me. And in the last 8 to 10 months, my blood work is improving and improving and improving. And from a liver function standpoint, remember the cancer is in my liver. My liver functions better now than when I was 21 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I guess uh, you're seeing this cancer nutritionist. She's on board with you doing carnivore.
So not only is she on board with me going carnivore, the words out of her mouth directly to me, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to repeat this, but I'm gonna, is she refuses in today's world to work with a vegan or plant-based cancer patient because they are unteachable.
Interesting. Um, and you mentioned the doctor was kind of threatening you. You need to go back on treatment. You need to go back on treatment, right? Those threats kind of only work for people who go, "Oh yeah, I'll go back on treatment," right? If you don't do it and then nothing happens, the doctor kind of has a bit of egg on their face, no?
So I'm gonna go into a quick little tangent with other, because I've been on your channel I think 3 or 4 times now. So I've actually been to. I'm now on my 11th oncologist. I've been through that many since day one till now. Number 11 and 10 I still have right now. One's out of state, one's in state locally. And at one point, I think it was oncologist 3 or 4. I think it was oncologist 3. That's the one that had the cops called at the cancer center because I grabbed him. I don't know if you remember that in our first or second episode, but that particular oncologist had the audacity to come up to me during my appointment with him and tell me, Mr. Hayduck, if you die, it's on you because you won't hop on this treatment. And my response to this oncologist was, Doc, I mean, I'm not going to label his name, but it was like, Doc, you look at my charts, look at my blood work, look at the imaging. You explain to me why I need the treatment you're trying to prescribe, because the treatment you're trying to prescribe already, part of my language, fucked me up, almost killed me, aged me. I've been pissing blood, and the cancer tripled in size and spread during this regimen. Why do I need this regimen again? He just looked at me again in my face, said, you need treatment or you're going to die, and if you die, it's on you. And that's when I got out of the chair and grabbed him and threw him up against the wall, and I said, we're fucking done. And I walked out of the room, and he no longer works there. And I complained to every person, nurse, staff member, every doctor I walked past on the way out of that facility about that doctor.
Wow. So, I mean, this has been quite a journey for you, right? So, you were diagnosed on your 31st birthday, and like you're 33, 34
I'll be
now,
34 come September, so I'm almost 3 years into the diagnosis.
right?
3 years
And
into the legal diagnosis.
and so you're on your in that time you're on your 11th oncologist. Um, are you at a point where you're feeling like the path, like you've found the right path now?
I feel I am definitely on the right path now. It goes back to the earlier conversations. You have to fail to learn. And without all these, I hate to use the word bad doctors, but without all these bad doctors, I'd never find the good ones. Um, it's screwed up to say, but it's how you have to think of it. It's positive.
It's kind of like the door-to-door salesman, the more doors that get slammed in my face, the closer I am to someone buying my product.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about outlook and stuff. It's like, with all these doctors, good and bad, I'm grateful for all of them. But without the bad ones, I would have never found the good ones. And this is my opinion. Maybe you have your own. Maybe people watching has their own opinion. But what separates a good doctor versus a bad doctor, in my opinion, is their ego. The difference between, I'm going to use Dr. Robert Kiltz as an example. He is relearning what he's used to learn. He's relearning what he used to preach, and he's apologized for it. It takes a lot of heart and a lot of character to not only relearn something new, but to apologize to your patients that you dealt with. Hey, I'm sorry for my wrongdoing. That I believed in that, but I've learned that is wrong, and this is what I'm doing now. And there's a lot of doctors I've dealt with. They don't care. They just patients' money. You know what I mean? And it goes back to the pharmaceuticals and Mother Nature. Pharmaceuticals trying to mimic Mother Nature's ability is, throughout civilization and throughout time, look how many illnesses we have now versus 50 years ago or 40 years ago or 100 years ago. And look how many people are now fat now versus years ago. I mean, to be blunt, and I'm always blunt. Some people love it, some people hate it. But back in the day, I don't know, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I don't know the actual numbers, but when they had, the original circuses, this is long before technology, long before, civilization, the way it is people used to go to a circus to pay to see a fat person, literally. And in today's world, and I mean this with all due respect, in today's world, the skinny people are the minority. We're outnumbered. And going back from like the 50s, 60s, 80s, 2000s, sidewalks only used to be a couple feet wide. Then they went to 3 feet wide. Now they're getting to 4 feet wide. Well, why is that? Because us humans are getting fatter and fatter. And instead of working on ourselves or learning the proper steps for a healthy body, a healthy mind, a healthy lifestyle, we sit out there with our hands out, doctor, give me that GLP-1 drug for weight loss. I want the easy route. And instead, it costs civilization more money for more taxes to build wider sidewalks and everything else. And so it's like, if each one of us took responsibilities for our own life and our own health more, it'd actually benefit the world money in the long run, because less of us would be milking the system or using the system or dependent on the system, so to speak. You
Mm.
should be dependent on yourself.
Yeah. I feel one of the sad realities of life, the fact that life gets easier for us is good, right? Like we've got a lot of uh, uh, we get a lot of benefits from things getting easier, but I think one of the sad realities of it is, as you know, each generation comes along, they get more and more likely to want to have a switch for everything, you know, because everything's much easier. Like they've never experienced, I don't know, have it, when I was at high school, you know, you still had to go to a catalog to find a book in the library. You know, you had to understand the Dewey Decimal System and all this kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? That like that's not a thing anymore. You know, probably a child's first experience with a magazine, they're like probably flicking the pages like this, going, "Wow, it's really hard to turn these pages in a magazine, right?" It's
Yeah,
just
having to lick your fingers
everything's
to turn the pages.
right. Everything's become so easy that yeah, we end up looking for a switch, and it's the hard way of going about things that is actually more likely to produce the results.
Yeah, well, it's like prime example. I do cold therapy every day. 30, anywhere from 34 degrees to 44 degrees for anywhere from 2 minutes to 8 minutes. And I went to Vegas this last week for a carnivore meetup that Christopher Brandon put on, and here I am, 6:30 in the morning, waking up my girlfriend in the motel room, packing in garbage cans of ice out of the ice machine, so I could do an ice bath in the hotel for free. It's like, I didn't enjoy having to get up that early. I didn't enjoy having to, go 1,000 steps down and back and forth the hallway to the ice machine. But I enjoy feeling good. I enjoy my results I get. I enjoy having a nice physique and everything that comes along with what I'm doing. So I have to continue doing the hard stuff, or I don't have to. I get to. I choose to. Um, but I had a few people. Well, why in the f would you spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the morning filling up a bathtub for cold water to sit in it for 3 minutes? Why not? I mean, most people would sit there, turn on the TV, and have their coffee. The TV and coffee doesn't benefit you in any way. Do something that's going to benefit you.
Yeah. And I think it's not until you get into a state where you're doing stuff for your body, where you're starting to feel better, that you take on that mindset of, doing those things to make me feel even better is like I'm happy to do them.
I 100% agree with that. And to relate to that is, in my own case, when I quit chemo and got a gym membership a few weeks later, and any of you guys could ask my parents whenever you see them in person or meet them, is for the first 3 or 4 months with the gym membership, I hated going to the gym. I'd tell my parents, because when I first started going to the gym, my buddy was working, I wasn't. And he'd text me or call me, "Hey, I'm off work in 30 minutes. I'll see you at the gym 30 minutes." So that was my cue to start up my truck and go. Every time you get a hold of me, every day, I'd go and tell my parents, "Damn, Josh just called. I got to go to the fucking gym. I don't want to go." And I complained and complained and complained, because at that time I was still pissing blood, and I didn't want to do it, but I knew I had to fight. And it wasn't until, I mean, after the first day, mentally I felt better, but it wasn't until like after a couple of weeks learning the repetition, I'm like, oh, the gym's actually my therapy, but I still hated doing it. Like I'd rather go out and, hit a punching bag for therapy or something like that. And it wasn't until I finally noticed some physique change. And I'm like, oh, I'm finally getting results with the hard work I'm putting in. Let's see where this could go. And at that point, I had the mental discipline that I felt good. This was the hard stuff that I did made me feel this way versus sitting there grabbing ice cream or a cookie and eating for comfort, like most of us do, like I used to do. The comfort is built within yourself by working for yourself, working on yourself. I used to work 6, 7 days a week for many, many years, made a lot of money. I mean, my last year or two of working was just shy or just barely into six figures. And I was working 6, 7 days a week to do that, though, 12, 14-hour days. And I was depressed. I hated life. I bought momentarily happiness with toys, games, dinners, drinks, whatever. But I was depressed inside. I wasn't happy. I had a black heart, black hole. And I'm actually going in the hole. I've been going in the hole a couple grand a month since I've been all natural because insurance doesn't cover anything anymore. And I feel like I have the world on my fingertips. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. And it's because it's been self-built. It's not been bought. You have to do that hard stuff to build yourself.
And so, how do your family feel about the approach you're taking to this? So can they see the change in you and they're happy for you?
So in the very beginning, quitting chemo was a very skeptical thing with all my friends and family and doctors. I only had a couple of people that were close to me that supported my choice on, hey, let's fight naturally. Everybody else like, you got a death wish going natural. But that's the big stigmatism. That's the big stigmatism around cancer is you need chemo. That's the only cure, which that's a whole other discussion. But as I've got successes through this journey, the support's gotten better and better. Initially, when I quit chemo, I had little support with quitting chemo. Um, I had a bunch of support with the gym, of course. Don't get me wrong; everybody there is motivating. But when I went carnivore, I lost some support again. Even some of the coaches, and again, I respect all the coaches. I love them all. It just when you're trained in one avenue, that's all you know. But the coaches and people like, you just spent 8 months in the gym getting your body built back, recovering from the cancer, recovering from the chemo. Why would you just waste those 8 months and throw it away going carnivore? Well, why keep it if I'm going to die? The cancer's still feeding. What I'm building doesn't mean shit if I'm not alive. And so when I went carnivore, the cancer stalled out. I lost a little bit of size, lost a little bit of weight initially. But one day in the carnivore, I think it was like 40 days in, it was like somebody turned a switch. I felt amazing. I had strength again. I had stamina again. And it's like, oh, let's just keep going. So the cancer stabilized, stalled out. I'm feeling better. Let's just run with it and see what happens. And now I am training harder than I used to. I don't even bring food with me to the gym to feel my workouts. But when I was carb based, I used to bring food with me to feel the workouts. And when I do my fasting for 3 to 7 days, I still go to the gym with no food. I mean, I don't work out as long as I used to, but I still hit it. I still hit a workout. You don't necessarily need food to have a workout. I mean, I think Dr. Kilch just did 14 days no food this last week.
Yeah. So what is your daily eating like? Like, what's your menu day to day?
So my daily eating kind of varies depending if it's a workout day or a non-workout day. If it's a workout day, I typically have one extra meal because I need the nutrients not only for the workout, but I need the nutrients to grow. Um, Once I get to the size I want to get, then I could cut back my food choice or my food volume. I want to be a little bit bigger, which is really hard on carnivore to do because you're eating so clean. But My first meal of the day always starts with eggs and bacon of some type. Sometimes it's just bacon. Sometimes it's bacon and eggs. Sometimes it's ground beef, bacon and eggs. I actually I really enjoy the Power Bowl. So it's for me, it's a pound of ground beef mixed up with 4 strips of bacon and 4 eggs. Everything just in a big scramble. So it's about a pound and a half, pound and 3/4 worth of food, and it's shit. It's like almost 3,000 calories in itself. It's like 2,500 calories, and that's normally meal one. I eat that any day of the week, whether it's a workout day or not workout day. On a workout day, that's the raw steak. That's where it comes in. That's my pre-workout meal I have, and then after after the gym, I come home and usually either have a steak or I have another pound worth of ground beef patties. Um, with carnivore, I mean, steaks are always good, but you don't necessarily need them as long as you have fatty meat of some type. That's what matters. And so, ground beef is the cheat code to carnivore to save money. Patties are cheap, ground beef is cheap. So, my favorite creation for dinner, if it's a burger, is 3 1/3 pound patties, bacon with each layer, sometimes cheese with each layer, sometimes not. Depends on where I'm at with my weight and also inflammation. Um, and then the very top is normally an egg or two. I actually made a video one yesterday and posted it online, and that particular meal is like 90 grams of protein, give or take. It's like 1,800 calories, and like I don't know, $10 to make.
Right. And the awesome thing after these meals, despite them being like so, so dense, you don't feel the same way as if you ate the same amount of carby foods, right? You don't have that bloated feeling.
Not at all. It's like I could remember back when I was carbohydrate based. Every time I ate rice, I'd be gassy. I'd bloat, and I'd look like I'm 4 months pregnant all the time, and it'd last for hours after eating. Like I said, I could put down almost 2 pounds of food in one meal if I'm hungry enough, and my stomach's still pretty flat. I mean, it protrudes a little bit because of the volume of food, but not like it used to be. And from a gas standpoint, like farts, very seldom do I fart anymore. Like typically, I fart if I don't cook something properly, or if I screw up and throw an ingredient I'm not supposed to use, or go to a restaurant and they don't make things proper. But I don't ever have gas anymore, and if I do, it doesn't stink. Like that's the crazy thing. When I was vegan and plant based, I was gassy all the time, and it was foul. Like it was bad enough when I was plant and vegan based. My parents wouldn't even let me in their house because I stunk so bad.
And it makes sense though, because you think all the vegetable matter, all the plant matter that you're eating, it's just fermenting, right? It's
Yeah,
just it, so it makes sense that when we stop doing that, suddenly our body's going to go, "Oh, I don't need to get rid of this gas like I did before."
I mean I'm not laughing as much as I used to because I always found farts funny, but I don't miss smelling them at all.
You can't do that game where you say to your nephew or niece, "Pull my finger," and all this kind of thing, right?
uh,
Yeah. So, if you were giving someone advice on starting carnivore, would you advise them to just jump straight in or go in like a transition?
so that's kind of like a two-part answer. I think it really goes back to your discipline and your belief with yourself, with your control. If you're a pretty disciplined person and you have control with yourself, I would suggest just dive in, do it. Of course, study it a little bit. You got to remember carnivore is not classified as a high protein diet, it is classified as a high fat diet. Um, carbohydrate based versus protein, or carbohydrate based versus fat adapted, my protein levels haven't changed. I still have the same amount of protein when I'm carnivore as when I was carb based. It's just my fat levels through the roof. So if you're disciplined, go hardcore, just dive into it. But if you aren't disciplined and you have issues, I would suggest getting into like a keto transition and then going into carnivore. You really need to learn relationships with food. A lot of our stimulants that we need to eat are just chemical cravings causing us to think we need to eat. Like a lot of us, including myself for the longest time, didn't know what true hunger is. And so Dr. Anthony Shafee has a bunch of videos on how to get into carnivore. I'm sure Dave Mack, with all of his guests he's had, has many of information to figure out how to go carnivore transition. Um, I'm actually trying to figure out a way to earn the money so I can hopefully get certified to be a carnivore coach, because I'd like to learn how to transition people from standard American to carnivore. I spent so many years feeling like shit in my life, and I'm sure a lot of us are that way. And I just want to give back now. It's like too many people are suffering for no reason at all when they could just have somebody to coach them through the struggles so they can learn how to get under their own 2 feet again.
Definitely. So Anthony, if people want to reach out to you, do you have a YouTube or any other way of getting in contact?
Yes, I have a YouTube. I have Facebook. Those are my two biggest social platforms I use. Right now, they're both Anthony Hayduck on the screen. I also have TikTok, which I use that as well, but YouTube and Facebook's more popular. TikTok would be making cancer my bitch without the H. It won't let me put the H. And I also have Instagram, which is also just Anthony Hayduck. But Instagram is my least favorite one to use, so I'm starting to learn how to mess with that.
No worries. I'll link to all your socials in the show notes. Anthony, thank you so much for coming back on and letting us know how things are going. I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure having me back, Dave. I'm always honored to be a guest on your amazing channel.